Hello and welcome. Today, we are jumping headfirst into the really fascinating world of myths and conspiracies. I mean, why do we believe them? And probably more important, how do we get better at telling what's real from what's, well, not? We're going to build a toolkit for thinking critically, so you can feel a lot more confident navigating the crazy amount of information that comes at you every single day. So let's just start with the big one, right? Why are we so drawn to these stories? What is it about a secret narrative that feels so compelling? Sometimes it feels even more believable than the official version of events. Let's just keep that question in the back of our minds as we explore some pretty famous examples. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to dig into the psychology behind this lure of the secret. Then, we'll get our hands dirty with two of the biggest theories of all time, the moon landing hoax and the Illuminati. After a quick look at a few others, we are going to wrap up by giving you a super practical toolkit for spotting myths out there in the wild. So, why do these theories stick around? Well, at their core, they offer these nice, simple stories for events that are often complex, messy, and sometimes just plain scary. It can actually be more comforting to believe some secret group is pulling all the strings instead of just accepting that, hey, sometimes things are random or chaotic. It gives you a sense of order, and it makes believers feel like they're in on some special hidden knowledge. Okay, let's put this into practice. Our first case study is maybe the most famous scientific conspiracy theory ever. The idea that the moon landing was a total fake, a huge show staged in some Hollywood studio. So here you can see the basic conflict, right? You've got the claim of a studio fake versus, well, hard physical evidence. While a lot of the hoax theories get hung up on things like shadows and waving flags, there's this one crucial piece of proof that often gets overlooked. The Apollo astronauts actually left laser reflectors on the moon, and to this day, observatories here on Earth can bounce lasers off of them. It's how they measure the exact distance to the moon. It's this quiet, persistent piece of evidence still doing its job almost 250,000 miles away. Okay, moving from science to history. Our next case study is a theory that started with a real, actual group and then just spun into this massive global myth, the Illuminati. We're talking about the idea of a secret cabal controlling everything from the shadows. This timeline is fascinating because it shows you exactly how a tiny historical fact can just snowball into this enormous myth. The real Bavarian Illuminati, they were a pretty short-lived group back in the 18th century. But the idea of a secret society, man, that was just too juicy to let go of. It got hyped up in books and pamphlets for centuries, and eventually it morphed into the modern myth we know today. This all-powerful elite sending secret messages through symbols and movies and on our money. All right, time for a lightning round of some other theories that just won't quit. And as we go through these, see if you can spot the patterns. The rejection of official evidence and that powerful appeal of a hidden truth. First up, the flat Earth theory. Now, this is a really interesting modern example of a belief that literally requires you to reject centuries of science. Believers just have to ignore evidence from satellite photos, GPS, even something as simple as watching a ship disappear over the horizon. To make the belief work, they have to invent an entirely different version of physics. Next, we have Area 51. This is just a perfect example of how official secrecy can be the ultimate fuel for the public's imagination. For decades, the US government wouldn't even admit this military base existed. That created this huge vacuum that got filled with all sorts of speculation, especially after the famous Roswell incident in 1947. The secrecy itself became the proof, leading to these epic myths of captured aliens and reverse-engineered spaceships. And finally, a very recent one, the origins of COVID-19. This really shows how theories can pop up in real time, especially during a crisis when there's so much uncertainty. Now, while the lab leak theory definitely got a lot of attention, it's really important to know that the majority of the scientific evidence we have points to a natural origin, meaning it jumped from an animal to humans. But it is still a topic of active debate, which just highlights how tricky it is for us to sort through information as it's happening. So after going through all these myths, how do we arm ourselves to deal with this stuff? How can we get better at navigating this incredibly complex information landscape? Well, let's build our own critical thinking toolkit. Here are 4 simple but honestly super powerful questions to ask yourself. Number 1, check the source. Who is actually making this claim? Are they an astrophysicist who studied this for decades or a random YouTuber? 2, look for evidence. Is the claim based on verifiable facts, like those laser reflectors, or is it just built on speculation and feelings? 3, Consider the origin. Remember the Illuminati? Knowing how a story started and evolved can tell you everything. And finally, number 4, question the motive. Why would someone want you to believe this? Are they selling a book, pushing an agenda, or just trying to get more followers? So, I'll leave you with this final question to chew on, something for our next debate. What makes a fact believable to you? Is it hard data? Is it what the experts say? And how willing are we to change our minds when new evidence comes along? Honestly, that's the core challenge of thinking critically in this world of ours. Thanks for tuning in.